Today, the world is hit by the pandemic of COVID-19, so-called coronavirus. The infection is everywhere, and it became omnipotent. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, proposes another type of infection, that of hope. We should infect one another with hope, and hence the title of today's talk. Coronavirus, or COVID-19, a bad thing that happened to humanity. We Christians, the children of the resurrection, should not worry. God will bring out of it his blessing. And whoever engineered it, whoever masterminded COVID-19 will be a loser. There is no hopeless situation for God. God turns even evil into good. Because of coronavirus, we are told by the government to stay at home. In spite of that, I already see one very special positive outcome. By nature, we love showing off. We have an inborn need to be noticed, to be admired, to be appreciated, and so to participate in the big events. Maybe Jesus wants us this time not to pay attention to the ceremonies, beautiful ceremonies of the Holy Week, of the Passover feast, but instead, in the silence of our rooms, asks us to look at our own Passover, our own crossing, passing from evil to God, to look at our own liberation from sin. It is then an occasion for my conversion, for my own personal metanoia. Because of coronavirus, we are constrained to stay indoors, and we physically make even less steps. We cannot move much. It seems we cannot pass over the doors of our houses. However, we can invite Jesus to pass over to us, to come into our homes, into our hearts, into our activities. We can give a beautiful welcome to Jesus. However, two things we need to remember when welcoming Jesus. The first one is to open the door. Jesus knocks at the door and respects our freedom, will never force himself open. Jesus waits at the door patiently. So open the door. Number two, take the last place and offer to Jesus the first one. By doing so, you will know what Jesus is all about. Jesus will invite you to sit next to him, or even give you his first place. Jesus will wash your feet, your hands, and Jesus will wait on you. Show me God that wants to serve his creature. COVID-19 is an occasion to change my way of life. It's an occasion to start a new life, to be born again. But prior to that, we must put an end to the first life, to finish the life that is not worthy of a disciple of the risen Christ. The virus, COVID-19, mutates. Malaria mutates. And I must mutate as well. That means I need a transformation. I must change, convert, improve my Christian life, leave behind the life of death and begin a new life. Let the tomb become resurrection, bad become good, death become life. We need to come out of the tomb of sin and move, walk, pass over towards life. You might have heard a saying, we are born to die. No, we Christians are born to live forever. the centurion did not calculate benefits at the crucifixion scene. He is actually the first fruit of the salvific death of Jesus. Imagine a pagan, Roman soldier. Notice, not an apostle. St. Basil the Great says that it is very easy to follow Jesus Christ as healer, as a bread multiplier, as a miracle maker, but difficult to follow Jesus condemned to death, Jesus who is suffering, Jesus dying on the cross. Sin may look like a tomb, something what seems to me a tomb, maybe instead an occasion, a springboard, an opportunity for something great. God has for me his plan. Maybe it is his will, it was his will for me to go into the tomb. Tomb for non-Christians is the end, is a disaster. Appears to be a misfortune, like losing job, not passing exams in the college, in the school, having sickness, or experiencing death of a close person or of a relative, or experiencing breaking of marriage or any kind of abuse, and entering into a bad habit. Christians, let us look at the tomb as a promise. But for that, we need to have faith. Hence, not even COVID-19 will enslave us. We Christians are Easter people, Alleluia people. Jesus shows us the way how to move from death to life, from oppression towards freedom. Jesus is our hope. I'm a strong devotee of the Immaculate Virgin Mary, the Mother of Jesus, and I cannot finish my vlogs without her. Let me conclude with the passage from the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verses 26-27. I read. When Jesus saw his mother and disciple there whom he loved, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home. Take Mother Mary with you. Make a special place for her in your dwelling place. Put her next to Jesus, the King of the Kings. Mary will never lead you astray, but always to Jesus. And moreover, Don Bosco, the founder of the Salesians, used to say, put your trust in Mary, help of Christians, and you will know what miracles are. This has been the last of this series of 4 talks, which I dedicate to the Blessed Virgin Mary. I owe her my missionary, my priestly and Salesian vocation. In her honor, let me sing a song entitled A Wonderful Name. I will sing it in my mother tongue, Polish. Jest jedno imię, które wszystkie serca splata, to imię Matki, a szczęśliwy kto je zna. Maryja, cudne imię, to imię Bożej Matki. Maryja, Ty ją wezwiesz, osuszy Twoje łzy. Jest jeden obraz, który wszystkie oczy więzi, to obraz Matki. On w nieszczęściu mówi Ci, Maryja, cudne imię, to imię Bożej Matki. Maryja, Ty ją wezwiesz, osuszy Twoje łzy. Jest jedna matka, swoje dzieci, najlepsza z matek, nie zapomnij nigdy jej. Maryja, cudne imię, to imię Bożej Matki. Maryja, Ty ją weźmiesz, osuszy Twoje łzy. Maryja, cudne imię, to imię Bożej Matki. Maryja, Ty ją weźmiesz, osuszy Twoje łzy. I would like to tell you about a dream Don Bosco had about the two columns. On the vast waters of the sea, Don Bosco saw an innumerable fleet of ships in battle array. The battle was against a big ship that represented the Holy See. The commander of the big ship is the sovereign pontiff. Upon seeing the fury of the enemies of the church, he determines to summon around himself the captains of the smaller ships to hold a council and decide what is to be done. In meantime, the wind and the waves gather in storm, and a frightful storm begins. All the enemy ships move to attack the Pope's ship, and they try in every way to stop it and to sink it. The battle rages ever more relentlessly. The enemy prows thrusts violently. Then suddenly, in the midst of sea, two mighty columns of great height arise. On the top of one there is the statue of the Immaculate Virgin, from whose feet hangs a large placard with this inscription: Auxilium Christianorum. That means help of Christians. On the other, much higher and bigger, stands a host of great size, Blessed Sacrament, and beneath a sign with the words Salus Credentium, that means salvation of the faithful. The Pope stands at the helm, and all his energies are directed to steering the ship towards those two columns. Suddenly the Pope falls gravely wounded. Immediately those who are with him run to help him, and they lift him up. A second time the Pope is struck. He falls again and dies. A shout of victory and joy rings out amongst the enemies. From their ships an unspeakable mockery arises. But hardly is the pontiff dead than another takes his place. The adversaries begin to lose courage. The new Pope guides the ship right up to the two columns and comes to rest between them. He fastens the ship to both columns. Several small ships that had fought gallantly for the Pope also bind themselves to those two columns. At this point, a great convulsion takes place. All the ships that until then had fought against the Pope's ship are scattered. Miraculously, they flee away, collide, and break to pieces one against another. The guns of the assailants are blown up. The rifles and other arms and prows are broken. Many ships are scattered and sink into the sea. Then over the sea reigns a great calm. We see from this prophetic vision that it is through the grace and power of the Holy Eucharist, the intercession of the Immaculate Virgin Mary, and the courageous leadership of the Pope, that the Church will survive the storms and attacks of this age and be guided safely to the haven of salvation. Jest jedna matka, która kocha swoje dzieci, najlepsza z matek, nie zapomnij nigdy